You guys have not let me live my fucking life today. You're gonna fall off? You want this one? Let me live my life. Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome for the first time. If you are new and you would like to hit the subscribe button down below, I would appreciate that. I appreciate everything. Thank you so much. Welcome to my channel. We're going to talk a little bit today about imposter syndrome because I feel like it's kind of time to talk about it again. I talk about it periodically. I don't know if I've ever done an actual dedicated video to it, but we're going to talk about it. I don't know where I left off. Okay, so yeah, if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. If you could hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. I apologize if the cat's crying. He cries a lot. Yeah, I did. I just said that about you. Imposter syndrome, also called perceived fraudulence, involves feelings of self-doubt and personal incompetence that persist despite your education, experience, and accomplishments. So yeah, that's big words for you feel like you shouldn't be doing well. You feel like you should feel guilty about doing well, but there's no real reason you should feel that way. There are 5 types of imposter syndrome, which, to be real, I don't know that I knew that before I started doing research for this video. So thank you to, I believe it's healthline.com. For giving me more information. As always, links are down below on my sources. Links are down below on my sources. All right, type 1 is the perfectionist. Problems with the perfectionist are, number 1, they cannot meet the standards of perfection. Perfection is impossible. That they may criticize small mistakes or failures of their own and don't look at the bigger picture because they are so busy trying to pay attention to whether or not they've been perfect. This may cause people to avoid trying new types of things. Identify standards for yourself that are measurable. There is no such thing as a perfect anything. If you pick up any book published by anyone, there are typos. If you pick up any book published by anyone, there are things that you might say, oh, I would have worded that differently. There is no such thing as perfection. You might want to list out small criticisms and have those be off limits. Have those criticisms be off limits for you to bring up yourself, such as, I leaned too heavily on the word that in this book. Okay, well, if nobody else brings it up, you already know it, so you've already addressed it, and you'll address it in your next book. If no one else brings it up, then you don't bring it up. Push yourself to try new things that may not be available to other people, that may not seem accomplishable to you, and remember that your goal is not to be good at them. Your goal is to just have tried them. You should acknowledge those feelings. You should always acknowledge your feelings when you are feeling negative. You might want to get yourself a counselor, a close confidant, someone that you can process those things with, whether or not they be a professional, but you probably do want to identify them and actually process them. And the last thing is to avoid comparing yourself to others. This is probably good for everybody. Comparing yourself to other people really just doesn't do you any good. You are more likely to feel negative about yourself if you compare yourself to other people. We're all different. Not all of us can put out 60 books. Not all of us can put out 2 books. You put out the number of books you can put out. You do the work you can do. And putting yourself up to someone else's standards is only going to disappoint you. The next type of imposter syndrome is the natural genius. This person has not usually had a hard time learning things. So they believe that they should just learn things pretty immediately as soon as they try them. They may feel like a fraud when they aren't completing things the first time correctly, even though rationally they may understand that nobody is perfect at anything to begin with. They may feel shame and embarrassment for failing, and this can result in them not wanting to identify when they've done something because the idea of not having it be perceived as a win is daunting and frightening. Some of the things you can do for this type of imposter syndrome is reassure yourself how long the process takes. Remember that most mainstream publishers accept a contract a year or two before the book is published. If it's taking you a few months to edit a book, that is not absurd. That's a reasonable amount of time. Some people are going to do it faster. Some people are going to do everything at a different pace. You can't hold yourself to those people's standards. Put small milestones towards success on your success list. Give yourself rewards for those, whether it just be bragging rights or some sort of actual tangible reward. Being able to say I finished one edit is super great, but being able to say I've finished a third of it and I'm going to celebrate that might make it feel like the full edit is not unreachable. Build relationships in the community and confide in other people. Make sure that you understand that everybody is in this same situation where they're feeling like they can't do enough and simultaneously like they're not stopping. We are very tired. We are very overrun. And sometimes it feels like we just aren't ever going to get on top of it. And that's okay to feel that way. But confiding in other people might make you feel a little less alone. Can you get down now and not cry? Let me try that. Next is the rugged individual or the soloist. This person believes they should just be able to do everything on their own. As many of us know, the writing process, especially the publishing process, is a lot of steps, and you might not be able to do all of the things. Not being able to make a book cover does not make you a failure. These people might consider themselves untrustworthy if they don't complete a goal on time or in the time they've given themselves, and they may feel like getting help makes them inadequate in some way. One of the things you can do is identify which parts of the process are author parts, which parts are typically left to the author, and make sure that you are able to do those things. Those are the important things as far as being an author is concerned, so those should be the things you focus on initially. While you might be able to develop other skills, or you may have come into this with other skills developed, being a writer is the number one goal in being a writer. Buying services from others also does keep our community alive. An author who is publishing one book a year but also sells book covers, that person is putting into the community and taking out of the community all at the same time. They are part of the community, part of the entire book world. And you buying a cover from that person does not make you weaker. It does not make you lacking in some way. In fact, you are putting into the community and you are doing something for the community because that person can then continue making book covers and writing. Challenge your self-doubts with real-world situations. Remind yourself that you might be holding yourself to a higher standard than you would hold anyone else to. Ask yourself, would I think that this person was lazy if they didn't do this? And maybe even try it with somebody that you don't necessarily like a ton. If there's someone you don't necessarily like, but you would give them leeway, then you probably should be giving yourself leeway. Next up is the expert. The expert believes that they need to learn everything there is to know. They might think the quest for information is more important than getting their tasks completed, and they may consider themselves a failure if they don't have all the answers at the ready. Some of the things you can do for this type of imposter syndrome is to build in limiters for information gathering. For instance, if you're writing a situation and you need to look up dresses, give yourself 10 minutes to look at dresses in this era. Make sure that you are not allowing yourself to spend 12 hours looking at dresses in this era for one line of dialogue. Identify the goal of your quest for information and make sure that you are focused on that goal and not letting yourself wander outside of it. Keep in mind that collecting information does not necessarily mean memorizing or knowing that information. It means knowing where to get it. Keeping a folder of places where you can go get that information at the ready can help you to feel less like you need to know it because you are able to access it at any time. And the last type of imposter syndrome is the superhero. The superhero links their competence to their success. Failing at anything proves that they are inadequate. This may make it very difficult to get past the editing process or to deal with bad reviews. This also might result in them expending as much energy as possible in every role, causing them to overexert themselves. And they probably spend a lot of time thinking about how they could have done more and should have done more. Some of the ways to deal with this is to build realistic expectations of your abilities and make sure that you focus on what you're able to do, not what you think you should be able to do. Utilize coping skills to deal with thoughts of inadequacy. If you don't have coping skills, Google is a great place to find some, and you may be able to get some from a therapist that are more suited to your personal needs. Put limiters on what needs deserve energy. Remember that small things might not deserve as much energy as you're putting into them, and allow yourself to limit the amount of energy you put into these smaller issues. And the last thing is to put in clear goals and reach them before adding new goals. I think we all have to deal with imposter syndrome at some point as publishing authors. I do believe also that it is likely that you experience it if you are not publishing, but I do think that it is something we can all get past. I also think it's something that we can talk about a little more openly, and it'll help us feel a little less lost. Keep in mind that every single author gets bad reviews. Every single book has people who dislike it. Everyone is told at some point in their career, this could have been better edited, or your editor was shit. Don't let those things eat you alive. Don't let the idea that someone somewhere is going to dislike your work derail you, knock you out at the back of your knees, and keep you from publishing your work. Ultimately, we're all going to be making mistakes, but we're all going to be doing our best. And if you're doing your best, no one can really say much about it. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching this video. If you are not subscribed, please do subscribe. Please also hit the like button. There should be another video on screen shortly where you can hang out with me again. Otherwise, I will see you again when the next video comes out. Have a good week and good writing. Bye.